welcome to the deep dive. I'm really excited for this one. Your sources on snorkeling are amazing.
Yeah, looks like you're ready to explore under the sea.
Yeah, and today we are going to make sure you can snorkel safely.
And also just enjoy and really appreciate how incredible that underwater world is.
Yeah, for sure. So it's not just a matter of not drowning.
It's also about really appreciating the beauty and the complexity of the ecosystem.
Exactly. So let's jump right in.
Okay.
One of the things that really stood out to me in your research was how important it is to pick the right fins.
Right.
And, I always thought, fins are fins, right?
Yeah, you just kind of slap them on and go.
But there's actually a lot more to it.
Yeah, well, it comes down to the physics of how you move through the water.
Oh, interesting.
And your sources, actually, they talk about how if you're going to be around a lot of coral reefs, you're going to want those shorter fins.
Why is that?
Yeah.
I always thought longer fins were better because you could, kick harder.
Right. You'd think you'd get more power. Yeah, in open water, that's true. Longer fins are going to give you more propulsion, more power. But when you're around coral, you don't want to be like a bull in a china shop.
You've got to be a little more delicate.
You need to be able to maneuver, make those quick turns.
Oh, so you don't crash into anything.
Exactly.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So it's all about using the right tool for the job. It's
picking the right paintbrush.
Right. You wouldn't use a giant house painting brush for something really delicate and tiny.
Exactly. Okay, so I've got the fins figured out. What about masks?
Masks. That's another important one.
I mean, obviously you want something that's not going to leak.
Yeah, fits nice and snug.
Right. But the research was talking about how the shape and size of the lens can actually affect how much you can see.
Your field of vision underwater.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah, so if you have a mask with a wider lens, you're going to have a broader view.
So you can see more.
Yeah, and some masks even have side windows, so you get some peripheral vision.
Oh, wow. So you can see, like if something's sneaking up on you.
Yeah, all around you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got fins, we got masks. Now we got to talk about snorkels.
Snorkels. You know what's great about snorkels?
What?
A lot of them have these features, like purge valves.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those.
Those make it way easier to get rid of water if it gets in the tube.
Which I imagine happens a lot.
It can, especially if you're a beginner.
Yeah, you're still figuring things out.
Right, and they also have splash guards to keep water from coming in the top.
Okay, so we got our fins for moving around, masks for seeing, snorkels for breathing.
Sounds like we're ready to go.
Almost. There's one more important thing.
Oh, what's that?
Our sources talk a lot about a life vest.
A life vest, okay.
Even if you're a good swimmer, a life vest just gives you that extra layer of protection.
Makes sense.
Especially if you get tired or, you encounter a current.
Yeah, safety first?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of being underwater.
And you forget about the risks.
Right. Okay, so let's say we've got all our gear. We're feeling good.
Let's get in the water.
We're ready to hit the water. What's the first thing we do? Do we just jump right in?
Well, not so fast.
Okay.
You got to choose a safe entry point.
Right.
Think about it. Like if you were going for a hike in a new area.
And I just got to run off into the wilderness.
You want to know where you're going.
Yeah.
So you got to check the water depth, look for any hazards like rocks or strong currents.
You're saying do a little bit of recon before you just go jumping in.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've scoped out our spot. We're geared up and ready to go.
We're ready.
Do we just jump in now?
Hold on. Almost. Remember those masks and snorkels?
Yeah.
Make sure they're secure.
Oh, right. Make sure my mask is adjusted properly.
Yeah, and the snorkel's attached really well.
Right. You don't want any surprises once you're in the water.
Exactly. All right, so we've double-checked our gear, scoped out the environment.
Anything else?
Just one more thing.
Okay.
When you enter the water, do it slowly.
Goo. Let your body adjust to the temperature.
Get used to it.
Yeah. Avoid that shock.
Okay, good tip.
And it's also a good idea to practice breathing with your snorkel at the surface before you go under.
Okay, so I can get used to, how it feels.
Exactly.
Okay, great. So we're in the water.
We're ready.
All right, we're in the water. The gear's all good. We're used to the temperature. Time to dive in.
Yeah, but how do we move through the water?
That's what I was thinking. It doesn't look easy.
Yeah, it's not as intuitive as you might think. There's a technique to it.
Oh, really?
It all starts with breathing.
Breathing. I mean...
Through your snorkel.
Yeah, but it's just breathing in, breathing out, right?
It sounds simple, but there's a little more to it when you're underwater.
Okay, like what?
You got to keep a slow and relaxed breathing rhythm.
I shouldn't be like
gasping for air every 2 seconds.
No short breaths.
No. That's just going to stress you out and make you feel more out of breath.
Right. Okay. So I need to stay calm.
Just like when you're meditating. Deep breaths in and out.
Exactly. And make sure you exhale fully before you take another breath.
Oh, that makes sense. So you can get all the old air out.
Yeah, and you're getting a nice fresh supply of oxygen with each inhale.
Okay, I think I can manage that.
Good, because breathing is closely tied to buoyancy.
Buoyancy, that's another thing I struggle with, staying afloat.
Buoyancy is all about finding that balance between you and the water.
So how do I do that?
Well, the more air you have in your lungs,
The higher I'll float.
exactly.
Oh, so if I take a big deep breath.
You'll be more buoyant, but
Yeah,
don't hold your breath for too long.
especially underwater.
Especially underwater, you got to keep breathing even when you're diving down to check something out.
Okay, so steady breathing is key.
It's the foundation of everything.
Got it. Okay, so now I'm floating, I'm breathing. How do I actually move?
Ah, the fin kicks.
Yeah, those always look so graceful, but I feel like I end up just splashing around.
The trick is to use your whole leg, not just your feet.
Oh, okay, so I should be like,
Kicking from your hip.
yeah, using those big muscles.
Keep your legs pretty straight and the movement slow and controlled.
So it's not about like how hard I can
Kicked about smooth, fluid movements.
Got it. And I should keep my fins underwater, right?
Yeah, just below the surface.
So I don't splash too much.
Yeah, and that's going to give you a more efficient push, too.
So I'm like a mermaid gliding through the water.
Exactly.
Now what about my arms? Should I be doing something with those?
You can. You can use your arms to steer and maneuver, especially if you're in a tight spot.
Okay, how do I do that?
Just keep your arms relaxed and use them to gently push yourself forward or to turn.
So it really is a full body experience.
You got it. Legs for power, arms for steering, and your breath controls your buoyancy.
Wow. It all works together. This is amazing.
It is. All right, now let's switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about one of the most important parts of snorkeling,
What's that?
respecting the reef.
Oh, yeah, that's crucial.
We're lucky to experience these amazing underwater worlds.
We need to take care of them.
Exactly, and it all starts with understanding the impact we have on the environment.
Okay, so what are some of the things we need to watch out for?
Well, remember those powerful fins we talked about?
Oh.
They can actually damage coral reefs if we're not careful.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we gotta make sure we're not kicking up sand or sediment.
Why? What does that do?
It can smother the coral and mess up its balance.
Oh, I see. So it's not just about not actually touching the coral.
It's also about what our fins are doing.
I never thought of that.
And speaking of touching, it's really important to avoid touching the coral.
I know, it's tempting. It looks so interesting.
I know, but even a little touch can hurt those little polyps.
Polyps, what are those?
Those are the tiny animals that make up the coral.
So the coral's like a whole bunch of little animals.
Exactly, and they're super sensitive.
Oh, wow.
Even just a brush can mess up their feeding and growth.
So it's not like a rock, it's actually alive.
It is, very much so, and it grows super slowly.
Oh, wow. Like how slow?
It can take decades, hundreds of years even, for it to recover if it gets damaged.
So we got to be super careful.
We got to treat it with respect.
Okay, I understand.
Good. Now, another important thing is to avoid collecting marine life.
I know. It's tempting to take home a little souvenir.
But even a small shell or starfish can throw off the whole ecosystem.
Oh, yeah. Everything's connected down there.
Exactly. And a lot of those creatures are actually protected by law, too.
So you could get in trouble.
Big time. So just admire them, take pictures.
Leave them where they belong.
Perfect. Now, this next one might surprise you.
Okay, hit me.
Your research talks about using reef-safe sunscreen.
What? Is that a thing?
It is. Some of the chemicals in regular sunscreen,
Can hurt the coral?
yeah, they can mess with their DNA, make it hard for them to reproduce, even contribute to coral bleaching.
Oh, wow. That's terrible.
It is, but luckily there are alternatives.
Like what?
There's lots of sunscreens out there now that are labeled reef-safe or coral-friendly.
Okay, so I should look out for those.
Yeah, they usually use minerals like zinc oxide or titanium dioxide.
Which are better for the ocean.
Much better. Plus, you can also wear protective clothing like rash guards and hats.
Oh, yeah. That helps too.
So you need less sunscreen.
That's great. So we can protect ourselves and the reefs.
Exactly. All right, so we've covered a lot of the do's and don'ts for respecting the reef.
It's like a whole underwater etiquette.
It is, but beyond just not harming the reef.
What else can we do? So it's not just about protecting the reef, but really connecting with it.
Yeah, and your research actually has some great advice on how to do that.
Oh, really?
It talks about shifting your mindset.
Okay.
Instead of trying to see as much as possible.
Yeah, like it's a race.
Yeah, think of it more like a meditation.
Oh, I like that. Slow down, be present.
Exactly. Find a spot that looks cool, maybe some coral or some rocks, and just hang out there for a bit.
Just observe.
Yeah, watch the light, the fish, the way everything moves.
Wow, yeah, I could almost feel that stillness.
It's amazing how different it feels from our busy lives up here.
Yeah, for sure. And I bet you start to notice things you wouldn't otherwise.
Absolutely. You might see a tiny crab hiding or watch a fish getting cleaned by another fish.
It's those little moments that make it so magical.
Exactly. And here's another tip.
Okay.
Don't just look at the big stuff.
Oh.
Check out those little patches of sand, the cracks in the rocks, look under the ledges.
So I should be like an underwater detective.
Yeah, there's a whole world of tiny creatures and patterns hidden down there.
Well, it's like a whole other universe.
It is. And when you see those details, you really start to understand how complex and connected everything is.
Right, that actually reminds me of another thing from the research. Learning to identify the different species.
Ah, yes, that's a game changer.
Yeah, if I could actually name the fish swimming by, that would be amazing.
It's like snorkeling becomes an interactive experience.
Yeah, you're not just watching, you're understanding.
Exactly.
But how do I even learn all that?
There are some great field guides out there. And a lot of dive shops offer guided tours with experts who can point things out and tell you all about them.
So it's like a mini research expedition.
Yeah, and the more you learn...
The more you appreciate it.
Exactly, and the more you want to protect it.
Okay, so we've covered a lot today. From picking the right gear...
To mastering those snorkeling moves.
To respecting the reef and really connecting with the underwater world.
It's been quite a journey.
And it doesn't end here.
Every time you get in the water, there's something new to discover.
I'm already excited for my next snorkeling adventure.
Well, before you go, I want to leave you with one last thought.
Okay.
It's from your sources, and it says, the ocean is not just a place to visit, it's a part of us.
Wow, that's powerful.
It reminds us that we're all connected to the ocean.
And we have a responsibility to care for it.
Exactly. So when you're out there snorkeling, remember that connection.
Be mindful, be curious, be respectful.
And most importantly, be awestruck.
The ocean is full of wonders.
Go explore.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Happy snorkeling.